Welcome back to our show, to another episode of the Instant Celebrity Maker. My name is Mitch Carson, your host, and today's guest is Dr. Mary Ritz. And I got to know her a little bit before the show, and she, like me, I enjoy talking to people who've lived in various countries and have endured, I would say, is a good word, because you have to endure different circumstances in life when you patriate to a different country. When you emigrate to a different country, it broadens your scope. And that's what I find interesting. When someone has lived outside of their native country, they always have a different type of intelligence. So I'm eager to learn today, as you will want to learn from Dr. Mary Ritz. Welcome to the show today, Mary.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mitch, for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're here. And tell us where you're from, because you have that very interesting accent, Dr. Mary.
So I'm from Zimbabwe originally. That's a country in the southern parts of Africa. But I've also had the privilege of living in South Africa. So my accent is all mixed up now.
Well, that's good. Well, you know, you're in Atlanta and you lived in Tallahassee, you said, so you've been in the States for a while, and it's always interesting when someone has something else to color in the line, so to speak, of experience. So how would your friends describe you, either abroad or, let's say, domestic?
Maybe domestic in a way. Maybe. Yeah. I think I'm kind of like a chameleon.
Okay.
You can't really figure me out. I flex my style to suit the situation. So I can't really be put in a pigeonhole, so to speak.
Okay. So you're a chameleon. Yeah. That's good. So you change based on your environment. All right.
Yes.
Well, that's good to know. That's called flexibility, and I think it's due to your multiple culture background. You learn how to do that. That would give you some uniqueness. So what's your greatest accomplishment?
That's $1 million question, Mitch.
I've got 2 million waiting for you.
I think my greatest accomplishment is the ability to adjust to different environments. We spoke earlier that yes, I have lived in 3 different countries, but I've also worked in 8 different countries. That means being able to work with diverse people, diverse culture, diverse perspectives. So it's getting into those environments, reading the situation, and adjusting accordingly. But at the same time, allowing myself the grace to make mistakes as I learn the new environment. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, what do you wish you had known when you started out in business?
I wish I had known earlier on that it was not about the talent only.
Tell me more.
So when I started, Mitch, it was because my parents were entrepreneurs. My older siblings were also entrepreneurs. I was very good at what I did. I think I'm a great facilitator, great speaker, really subject expert of the areas that I focus on. I thought that was enough. However, I needed to expand my sales, networking, and really just realizing that I'm a student for life. I think I was a bit naive, and I'm glad at the same time that I was, because it gave me a rude awakening, and I needed to quickly adjust.
Okay. All right. So it was more than being a subject matter expert. You have to incorporate sales and marketing into this mix.
You have to.
Yes. Okay. That's quite quite noteworthy, and that's called clarity and understanding, because that plagues a lot of professionals. They may be great at being doctors, but they also need to develop bedside manner, know how to ask for referrals, and treat people well beyond being a great diagnostician and dispensing. So yeah, you have to wear a few hats when you're in business.
Sure.
And what are you curious about right now?
Oh, a lot of stuff. But I'm curious about the relationship between the customer, between and the leadership of an organization and the team. So I call that the triangle. So I base my business on what I call the human element framework that focuses on those three areas. But given COVID situation, and you almost have two factors competing. When we started, everything was about the customer.
Sure.
But right now, the employee voice is also dominating. How do organizations still listen to the voice of the customer, but at the same time listen to the employees? How do you create that balance going forward? Because in some instances, when I deal with my clients, it almost feels like the employee is in the driver's seat. I'm curious about that question and what it is going to look like in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it's interesting you say in 2 to 3 years, because beyond that, it's hard to envision with all the recent changes that have gone on in the world. It's hard to have a 5-year time horizon.
You're right. Very right. So everything is changing
so rapidly. So much faster. We're no longer in a horse and buggy, and I remember that like it was yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. So tell us about something you might have failed at.
So I think the one thing, I don't really call it fail, but I've never really been that person that enjoyed sales.
Okay.
I like to just have great conversations and trusting that will lead into sales relationships. But when I look at the new sales strategies, the different approaches that you have to take, I wouldn't say I'm one of the best. I could use other strategies that I can incorporate, and that could have something to do with my upbringing.
Okay.
That you don't really sing about what you do. You let the work speak for itself, and then people compliment you.
Yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't work in America.
Not in America.
Not in America. Yeah, you know what, I would tend to agree with you in other parts of the world. And it's interesting because I want to comment, because I think a culture I'm going to talk about is probably more similar to your upbringing, and it's certainly completely 180 degrees different than America. I've run 7 events in Dubai, and I wanted to do business with certain vendors in the media. I had to chase them in order to give them my money.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Contrary to the thinking. If someone wanted to give money to a salesperson working for a radio station in advertising sales, they'd be hounding you.
Yes.
Chasing you. It's just the opposite. Now, maybe were you raised like that too? Was that sort of the business culture in Africa?
Business culture, but it's changing. It's changing. So for mine was really the upbringing in my family.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that was really the generic overall. Okay. So the way that I was brought up was never sing praises about yourself. Let others sing praises about you. So in Africa is also not linear. So there are some people that would agree with me, but there are some people that would be acting like an American. So it's also that kind of dynamic that you have to be cognizant of. What I try to avoid is to say what I have said is cuts across Africa or Zimbabwe.
Okay. All right. Now I'm very anxious to hear your answer to this question, because you come from a different culture and environment, and everybody answers this uniquely, and I generally cannot predict who they're going to say. But if you could have coffee or lunch or dinner with any historical figure that is no longer with us today, who would you choose?
I would choose Martin Luther King.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. You
Yes,
see?
I would.
All right. And you come from Africa. Now, a lot of, let's just say, African Americans, but I almost have to be careful how I use that, because you're truly an African American. You come from Africa. I mean, you were born there. Now you're, I would imagine, American citizen. Yes. So you're an African American. So let's just say Black Americans. I might get in trouble saying that, but you understand the context.
I do.
Okay, they were born here of African origin, but they're born in the U.S., who would say that about Martin Luther King. But given that you come from Africa, the homeland, and now have emigrated here, and you're still related to Martin Luther King, I've never had an answer like that. So you got to tell us a little bit about that. That's interesting. What makes you choose him?
I choose him because I remember watching some of his documentaries in Zimbabwe as a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really understand the power at that stage. But then when you actually come then to live in the United States and you see the work, and you almost like, now I live in Atlanta, and I walk the streets that were claimed that he walked. How tangible. That's number one. As a kid, and then you realize it in your 40s that, wow, the two worlds have collided.
Sure.
And then secondly, his leadership style, obviously. To me, that he embodies what I aspire, looking at people with just fairness, inclusion, and to have that kind of a dream at that time. I can't think of it. To have the courage to speak up. I think it's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Courageous man at the time, very much so, and it cost him his life.
Yes.
But certainly to be admired for the ages. So who's been your most important professional mentor?
John Maxwell.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Not because I know him personally.
Sure.
All right. So I read his work. I'm certified in his programs.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just tell you a story. I was in South Africa, and I was starting Almenta International. And I listened to John's story. And he said when he started, he and his wife would literally produce their manuals. print them by themselves, ship them by themselves. And guess who was doing the same thing at the same time when I started? I was doing that. So I said, if he can do that, and he's now the John Maxwell that we all know of, surely young Mary from Zimbabwe can do the same. So truly mentor has challenged me, not only professionally, but he lives his faith in a public space, so to speak, with courage and boldness.
Yeah, he was a former preacher, right?
Yes, he is.
Got it. Okay. All right. So if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self, so let's just say you would call this, well, in America we say high school. I don't know what you call it, your A-levels or something in Africa.
Yes.
Okay, A-levels. All right. After you finish your A-levels, what would you give your advice to that young Mary before she became Dr. Mary?
Don't give up.
Okay.
Build your wings as you go up. You do not have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the resources. Look at what's in your hands and build that. The talents are already inside of you. What you need to do is to identify and to build around that. Don't hesitate to make the mistake and learn from that.
Okay, great. And what is your plan to achieve your goals over the next 2 years? I don't want to go beyond that because of the changing environment. So if right now, if you were to focus 2 years out, what would it be?
So my focus right now, Mitch, is to grow to another level.
Okay.
So we all know that as speakers, as coaches, as experts, sometimes you have these tools in your toolbox. But at this point, my plan is to elevate that. To go into places that I have never been invited, that I've never been, by also learning and growing and pushing myself to a place that makes me uncomfortable, that I'm afraid to be in that place.
Okay.
But I'm ready at the same time. So let's grow that platform, those bigger stages, so to speak. But at the same time, let's mentor. I'm already mentoring, but really taking the mentoring program to another level. Equip those younger generations that are next leaders for tomorrow.
Okay, great. And how do you overcome a challenge when it's thrown at you? And I know you've had a few in your life, just by virtue of living in 3 countries. I know that just comes with the territory.
Yes.
So how does Dr. Mary handle challenges?
The way that I handle challenges is it's interesting that you ask that. I go inside. I don't go outside. I like what can I do to make sense of the chaos and the complexity. And I identify the crisis, the problem. Then I look at how can I solve it personally first before I go outside. Then once I have discovered and I've made a roadmap for myself, then I reach out for the help that I need. Therefore, from there, I will then readjust, refocus, relearn, network accordingly, and reach for the help that I need. But it starts internally.
Okay.
And then outward.
All right. And if you were to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about?
I'd write about my dad.
you want to tell us more?
Yes.
What makes your dad so interesting?
My dad is interesting because he's a gentleman that came from nothing with seventh grade education, started working from nothing and build up his career, business, his family to be PhDs, to be CPAs, to be preachers with seventh grade education.
Wow. How many siblings?
Nothing could limit it. Seven siblings.
Wow. Wow. Impressive.
And my dad now has gone to be with God. So there's no other motivation that I have, Mitch, to do more for my dad with seventh grade education and me with a PhD. I mean, I have no excuse.
Got it. Well, that's quite a motivation. Gives me a cup of coffee for sure. So what's one question you wish I'd asked? And then we can certainly ask you that so you can answer for the listeners.
Mitch, you did great already.
Well, okay, I'll ask the question then.
But I'm gonna
Go ahead.
So one question that you could have asked me would be, why are you obsessed about what you do?
Okay. It was a why question I was going to ask you. Interesting. Yeah. Why do you do what you do?
Yes. So when I was a kid, Mitch, I was 9 years old, little girl in Zimbabwe, go to school in the morning, come back in the afternoon, and pretend to be the teacher. I had an imaginary class and wanted to teach this imaginary class the principles that I had learned. My whole idea was to equip this imaginary class to be good, to be inspired, to go and conquer the world at the age of 9. Fast forward at the age of 15, when mom started sending me around to buy things from the groceries. I hated the way that we were treated. Customer service was poorly delivered. Then I would share with my siblings that I want to train these big corporates on customer service at the age of 15. What happened? My reason and purpose called me at the age of 9 and 10. Today, I teach, I facilitate, and I equip people to do what they do best in their organizations. My first love, customer service, is what I do right now, followed by leadership and team development, so that they can be the best that they can be. So I'm all about empowering people, serving and encouraging and moving people forward.
Awesome. How do you promote your personal brand right now? How do you promote your company?
I do a lot of social media,
okay,
especially on LinkedIn. I do newsletters. I do videos. I do lunch and learns. I do speaking engagements. Those are the things that I'm currently doing to improve and build my company brand.
Okay. And how can I support you?
You can support me by helping me achieve my sales goals.
Okay.
To get into those big stages that I'm aspiring to be a part of.
Okay. Well, the stage behind me pre-COVID was one of the larger ones. That was 6,000 people in Tokyo.
Right.
It's good for branding. So you want to have these types of photos to prove your expertise.
Yes.
That's how John Maxwell did it.
Yes.
It's how Brian Tracy did it. I mean, this and through books and getting out in the press.
Sure.
Okay. And what would you say about your experience on the show? You paid me a compliment earlier, but now it's the question was already there, so it's hard to remove it.
I've enjoyed it. I think one thing that I really liked about you is you wanted to know me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You connected with me. You were curious. You know, some people just tend to push themselves on other people.
Yes.
But I do not sense that. I sense like I was coming into your house, and you welcomed me in, and you became curious about me. And truly fascinated.
Yeah.
You also could draw the commonalities. You know, what you and I had in common. We shared about somebody you know who comes from my country. I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And what would you say is your final word?
My final word is we are going into an area that is ambiguous, it's uncertain. But one thing we need to be certain about is what each and every one of us stands for. I'm a trainer. I'm a facilitator. I encourage. I stay in that lane. And I become an expert in that. That's all we can do. And just pivot as this uncertainty continues.
Sure. Okay. Well, hey, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show today, Dr. Mary, and I'd be happy to support you in any way I can. I've had the distinct pleasure today to interview Dr. Mary Ritz, a lady that's lived in 3 countries, now residing in Atlanta, and I look forward to experiencing and applauding and viewing your success. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mitch.